Hello, my fellow Hulk fans. It's Jerry Rasco, and I'm back with you again today to look at another issue of The Incredible Hulk together. Today, we're going to look at The Incredible Hulk number 5. It's definitely, again, an interesting issue written by Stan Lee and drawn by the King, Jack Kirby, with inks by Dick Ayers. Some interesting stuff as we reach the initial conclusion, or what seemed to be the initial conclusion of the Incredible Hulk series. We'll get into all of that history here as we go into the episode. But of course, as always, I want to thank you for checking out the video here, and thank you for those of you who have been subscribing to the channel. It's a great help. It helps me. It helps the channel out a lot just by having you click that subscribe button. So if you haven't, please take a minute and consider doing that for me. If you do subscribe, it is, of course, free of charge. It's just the click of a button. And when you subscribe, you will be eligible to win some original art when we reach 1,000 subscribers. So if you're not familiar, when we reach 1,000 subscribers, one lucky winner for free, 100% free, will be winning this Incredible Hulk original art by yours truly. This is 11 by 17, full color Hulk piece. And then as well, there's going to be a Spider-Man piece for the winner. So one person is going to win 2 pieces of artwork when we reach the 1,000 subscriber mark. So if you're interested in that, you want to make sure it's you, make sure you click that subscribe button. So, like I said, if you are familiar with the channel, we spend time together here each week looking at old comics and reviewing the art and talking about how it was put together. I've been doing this with the Amazing Spider-Man for over a year now, and we've just dove into the Hulk here a little bit more than a month ago, and we're looking at this series. So some interesting stuff going on here. Like I said, some stuff with the history that I'll go over. Let's jump over to the comic and check it out together. So this is the cover to the Incredible Hulk number 5. So as I mentioned, we're heading towards what was believed to be the end of the series. So we'll talk about it more next week when we look at Hulk number 6. But at this point in the series, the Hulk had not really landed with readers. He was not a hero. He was not a villain. He was something in between that we hadn't seen before. Remember, this is the early 60s, so this is the time of the Fantastic Four and Iron Man and Thor and Captain America. Well, Captain America was still on ice technically, and Spider-Man and stuff like that. So we were much more used to our clear-cut heroes and villains, and the Hulk was somewhere in between. He was a monster. He was misunderstood. He started out more Frankenstein, then we cut to more of a Jekyll and Hyde kind of idea. Then they tried this idea of what if he was in Hulk form, what if he was controlled by Rick Jones, his teenage sidekick, so turning it more into a teenage wish fulfillment type of idea. And now the last couple issues, we've gotten to the point where Dr. Banner can use a gamma machine and turn himself into the Hulk, where he's sort of a mix. They say he has Banner's brain, but it's clear he's definitely the Hulk is his own persona, but it's not the Hulk smash that we're used to. He can talk, he's articulate, and you'll see he even has a library. So interesting stuff going on here. And again, just sort of, this is Stan and Jack Kirby throwing things against the wall, seeing what's going to stick. And in this case, not a lot did. And then we end up moving on. But we have this one, and then we have next week's issue as well to go forward. So let's take a look and see what we've got. Again, this is issue number 5. It's a good cover. I'm not sure who's in more danger here. So we have Rick Jones and Betty Ross down in the corner. We have the first appearance of Tyrannus and his forces. Tyrannus is a character that's sort of a throwback to, I guess, supposed to be like a Roman type of feel, as you can tell by the sculptures, his outfit, etc. Mixed with underground, lost civilization kind of stuff. But this is the first appearance of this character and his henchman. We'll get into that. The thing I noted that was kind of weird is the Hulk is staring like right into our eyes. So that's why I was like, who's in more danger? He's not looking at his enemies who are really Tyrannus and his forces. They're coming to slay him. He's not looking at Rick and Betty, who are clearly afraid of him. He's looking at us. So kind of an odd feeling in terms of what's the motivation. What is the main character looking to do? What is the point of the cover? So a little weird, but I mean, it's powerful. Him busting through the wall in the metal like that, very powerful cover. Great composition in terms of where the elements are all placed. So that part is very, very nice. As we always say, this is a scanned PDF copy of this comic, and that will come into play more than usual down the road. And I'll explain when we get there. But that's why you're going to see, yellow pages, original ads, ripped stuff, things of that nature, because this was the best copy that they could have, at the time in 2007. And this was a comic from 1963. So it's important, obviously, at that age, condition is everything, right? So they did the best they could, but it's nice that we get to see the comic in its original form for the most part. We have a splash page. I'm not a big fan of the splash pages that are a recap of the story, or in this case, introducing the main villain. Introduce us in the story. That's fine. But here we have Tyrannus and his henchmen, who are referred to as the Tyrannoids or Tyrannoids. They are related to the Moloids, who are underground subterranean yellow characters with the Mole Man. So Tyrannus and the Mole Man, both underground, both dealing with these subterranean people as their subjects, and eventually Tyrannus and the Mole Man do come into conflict. The Hulk face is great. We finally seem to have a kind of a locked on the Hulk design, at least for now, which is okay. Unfortunately, this is the last issue of artists Jack Kirby and Dick Ayers for some time. Jack Kirby will come back and do, covers and some Hulk work here and there as we, throughout the history, as long as he was working with Marvel. But at this point, this is his last real official main issue of the Hulk. Betty, wow. So I want to cover this. So you see Betty Ross here and you go, that's not great. And really what it comes down to is the hair is just wrong. It's not the style, but where the hair is placed on the head either makes it look like she has a giant head, or that her hairline starts about halfway on the back of her scalp. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put up a picture for you to look at that I found online that just sort of breaks down the proportions of the human head. So we'll go ahead and put that here. So as you can see, the way that you draw the human head, it is broken up into proportional sections. It's roughly divided in half, a little bit above the eyes, close to where the eyebrows are, and then sort of half of that again, or a third of that, is your forehead, and that's where your hairline would start. If you go from between the eyes and the chin, about halfway is where your mouth is. Halfway between the eyes and the mouth is where the bottom of the nose is. Again, these are all general proportions, and everybody's face differs, right? You may have a longer face, your eyes may be higher, your forehead, your hairline may be higher, your nose may be larger. There's room for fluctuation, but this is sort of the general outline. So this is what it should be, basically. And we'll cut back to the comic and you'll see what I'm talking about. So here's Betty Ross again. So you can see if this part of her hairs are bangs that falls over her head, then really her hairline really should have started where the bottom of this hair is. But this is not a hairstyle that's swooping back. This is a hairstyle that's coming forward, which means the roots of that hair are up higher. And the fact that you can see all the way back to here, like way back and up, she's got a pretty large head. So that's one. Obviously we'll skip. So here you can see this is much better, right? It's much lower on her head. Yes, it does come back to where the part is, but it's not nearly as big. So this is where it's done right in these images. This one was a bit of a miss. So just to get into the story, is pretty good. I like in these first page the mass of the Hulk. So these are, at first I was like, did I miss something? Did I miss an issue or something like that? Because they're showing examples. General Ross is showing examples of how they've tried to stop the Hulk. But this stuff is all things that happen off camera, if you will. All right. So they made some sort of a giant magnet that would hold him, even though it's not truly magnetic. It's a neuron magnet. To hold him, which of course he just breaks out of because of his strength. He tips over a whole building. They shoot huge artillery shells at him, which just explode and nothing happens. So General Ross is looking for the Hulk, or for Dr. Banner to come up with something that could stop the Hulk. And obviously he doesn't have anything because he doesn't want to get captured. Betty is bemoaning her infatuation with Dr. Banner, that she is in love with Bruce, and that Bruce doesn't seem to notice. But Tyrannus does. So Tyrannus is able to see the surface from his underground lair and realizes that she is the key if he wants General Ross to stay away from him so that he can enslave the surface world. So the reason Tyrannus has his abilities and what he can do, he's been alive for centuries, and that is because he found the Fountain of Youth underground. It's what keeps him alive and healthy and strong, even though he was banished to the center of the earth centuries ago by Merlin. So interesting little tie there. I think eventually things like Merlin and I think Tyrannus and stuff like that get roped into eventually Captain Britain and those Marvel UK stories. So that's kind of interesting. So they have advanced technology. The Tyrannoids, these underground people, have a bunch of technology left over from the aliens that created them. I guess the Eternals or the Deviants or some other ancient race created these underground people, and they still have some of their technology. And Tyrannus is going to use it to steal or to conquer the surface. So again, you see a lot of Jack Kirby tech in this story. Crazy stuff where you're like, I don't understand how it works, but it doesn't really matter. It kind of works for that image and that image only. I note here, right, he's got this sort of pseudo-Roman gladiator helmet, but look how big and thick and chunky he is. That's another good example of kind of Kirby designs. A helmet that's going to be big with these big spikes, big thick gauntlets, stuff like that. I mean, this whole costume of Tyrannus is, again, super Kirby, right? From the boots, we see that stripe. We've seen that design on other characters like Magneto and Galactus and stuff like that. Wristbands. This, every piece is detailed with design and not random. I mean, it's a sort of a sword with bat wings, stuff like that. But it all has meaning. But it's one of those Kirby things where if he designs something, every bit of it is going to have trim, designs, elements, shapes, colors, all that kind of stuff on it. So Tyrannus, of course, captures Betty, takes her off in this weird roller spidery machine. And again, this is what I'm talking about when I say like kind of weird Kirby tech. So he has a screen in his machine and he can view anybody he wants on the surface, and then he can broadcast their image to that person. Why is the screen this weird triangular shape where it's larger on one side, curved on the bottom? Again, just weird shapes, odd angles. That is the trademark of Kirby tech. So Rick Jones and the Hulk head down, and they see Tyrannus running away with Betty and follow along. Now, this is one where, in my opinion, I would have taken this final panel on this page and I would have flipped it going the other way. They're going down, so it doesn't matter what direction you go in. But in terms of just how the page flows, Tyrannus and Betty are getting into what turns out to be the ball of this ship, and then the arms are what's holding it above the hole that goes down towards the center, down toward his underground lair. Well, you see the way the word balloons go. So up top, left, center, and then right, and it's on that border. So imagine if you flip this so that it was going from top left to bottom right, that word balloon would take you right there and flow down into the page turn, which I think would have been a better way to do it. Just in terms of moving the reader eye, again, page flow, you're going in the same direction. Just makes sense to me. They land, and Tyrannus uses gas to knock out the Hulk. So again, like a very weird Kirby tech for gas. Now, and this is the thing, like, so he has a wheel to turn on a valve of gas, and it points, you can see, so it comes out of the wall, I guess, is this hose, and then it goes in all four directions all at once. Why not just have one, or why not have it just come out the top? You know, why would you need sort of 4 pipes of gas? Just extra. It's just extra doodads, extra, you know, little business to look at with your eye, just to make it more interesting than just, it could have been just a wheel, a valve with a hole in the wall, and the gas comes through. But, you know, we again, a little bit of extra. And then I did like this. So the gas is there. So they use the blue color for the gas, which is great. And at first you just have the hatching. So the gas is so thick, we can't see through it. We just have this hatching that shows you the shadows of Rick and the Hulk. I think that is great. I really like that solution. Again, for a time when we didn't have Photoshop where you can do translucence, you couldn't print like that. This is a great solution to just have this cross hatching. Then we come in and you see there's even more, you know, still more gas, and we can see what's happening. Hulk's trying to like bust his way through the wall, I guess, to get to air maybe, or to get to Betty, and then they both pass out. And what I liked about this is the inking job from Dick Ayers on this panel. So you have gas that's between us, the viewer, and the Hulk and Rick, and so you have their bodies. There's rubble. You can see Rick's arm up in the air, his head, the Hulk laying face down. But then you have these thicker sort of gas, the contour lines of the gas over the top. So what I liked about the inking is that, yes, there are some shadows and some thick lines of like the Hulk's legs and stuff like that, but there's thicker lines over the top of the gas fumes. So using that variation of line weight for what's in front versus what's behind, and the fact that gas is obscuring what we're looking at, I really like that as far as an ink job goes. And then, so they're unconscious. Now, this is interesting, right? So again, we talk about the previous issue. You know, so Hulk is still wearing his trunks. He's still smart, or smarter than our classic, you know, Hulk smash kind of thing. And when he's knocked out, he doesn't revert back to Banner. So if you're a fan of the Hulk, you know, like later, when Bruce Banner gets mad, he turns into the Hulk. If the Hulk falls asleep, when the Hulk calms down, if he somehow manages to get knocked out, he typically will revert back to Dr. Banner. Here, he doesn't. He has to be in front of that machine. Right now, in terms of story, only the Gamma machine in his cave will turn him back and forth from the Hulk to Bruce Banner. And so here he gets knocked out, but eventually he wakes up and he's still the Hulk. I like this angle, this low angle, and I actually did kind of think about this. So it's a good angle. It's great for your story, especially when you have this scenario, right? Somebody standing over somebody else. So you have this great big Hulk face in the front, which is excellent. And again, really locked in on the Hulk design so far. It's been very consistent and good. I really like it. It's working great. So you have the person standing and the Hulk is framing the bottom. Now, here's what's important. You need to draw through the page to make sure that this works. So if you think this is his Tyrannus's waist is about here. So the Hulk, this is his knee would be below this the Hulk a little bit. Then his calf muscle, then his leg, and his foot would be down about here. So if he's standing on ground about where the 2007 Marvel is, give or take, is the Hulk's body thick enough that the Hulk is laying on the ground and obscuring it, or is Tyrannus essentially standing in a hole? No, it works. If you were to draw it all out off the panel where it would be, it would. Tyrannus would be standing about right where the floor would be, and the Hulk would be on that same plane or floor. So that works. It's just something to be careful of with your proportions of your characters in your, in comparison, your perspective. You want to make sure that when you try to pull off a panel like this, everybody's standing on the same plane, which means you have to sometimes draw outside the panel just to be sure. So that works, and I've seen it not work, but this one absolutely works. They get the Hulk dressed up to fight a robot in a gladiator pit, and I wrote, wow, we've seen this. So again, if you're a modern fan, whether you've seen this in the comics, aka Planet Hulk storyline, where the Hulk becomes a gladiator on a far-flung alien planet, or Hulk Ragnarok, the movie, or I'm sorry, not Hulk, Thor Ragnarok, where Thor finds the Hulk as a gladiator on the planet Sakaar. But here's the first time we have the Hulk as a gladiator. So it obviously is a theme that comes back, over and over with the Hulk. I think it makes sense, right? We have the strongest character in the Marvel universe, and we want to see him fighting these crazy scenarios. The gladiatorial combat just seems right for the Hulk, right? It just seems to match up. Now, I will say there are coloring errors here. It's not clear until you get to the next page, but when they're putting him into the gladiator outfit, these gauntlets on his wrist are actually supposed to be full gloves. And you can see it here in this picture where the robot grabs him with a steel cable, but who's got who, right? Because now the Hulk can grab that cable, pull himself in, and smash the robot. But if you look at the hands, those aren't wrinkles of his skin. Those are joints of the glove, like metal joints of the glove. You can tell there's no, throughout the whole page, there's no fingernails. These lines keep going in areas where the Hulk doesn't have joints. So I think these hands are supposed to be blue, is my point. And they've been colored green like they're his hands, but they're not. It's gloves that he's wearing. So nice stuff there. This is an interesting take. So these are 3 different drawings of the Hulk face getting closer and closer, which I thought was interesting because sometimes you can do what's called a stat. So a stat is you draw this picture of the Hulk and then you tell him plus, so let's say plus 75. So I want this picture blown up 75% and put into this panel. And then I could do plus, 150, and it would be the same drawing, but as it gets blown up and put into the panel, like you're zooming in, it would lose fidelity. The lines that were drawn small would get grainy and blotchy the closer you get. But I've certainly seen it done in comics. It's a quick way to reuse the image over and over when you're doing something like this, like a slow zoom in. And this is a technique that we've seen Kirby do a number of times. We saw it in the last issue a few times and before that. So it's one of his strengths, especially when you have this moment of a character like the Hulk where, his anger is building until there's this big explosion of power where he breaks the robot. You might see it in Understanding, like all of a sudden a character goes, "What? Oh, and understands." Or I've seen it in his Captain America work, stuff like that. So it's a Kirbyism that you see throughout his work. And then the Hulk goes to attack Tyrannus and starts ripping up the arena. And I like the scale. So that's one of the things about the Hulk there's a lot of these panels and pages where things are zoomed out, or wide shots. So I'm just going to go back real quick. So we see like him lifting up the whole building, or tearing apart the ship that brought everybody down to Tyrannus's subterranean realm, right? So the Hulk's tearing it apart. In order to see the damage and the destruction and the power, you have to zoom back. So we have to go to a wide shot without as much detail, but we see, like I said, that power, that destruction, where if you're zoomed in, it's hard to tell what he's smashing, if you will. So this here with the arena, this is a nice way to pull back and see that scale of him lifting up this entire wall to try to get at Tyrannus. And then, of course, he holds a gun on Betty, so the Hulk has to stop, and he's the one that gets stunned and paralyzed. And now Tyrannus puts him to work with the labors of Hercules. So there's a couple other things. So we'll see the labors of Hercules, and then in a few pages we're going to see an ode to the myth of Samson, combined with, like I said, all this history of the Hulk, right? Of sort of Frankensteinish Hulk, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde Hulk, brainless automaton Hulk. Again, they're trying stuff. So here they're using this sort of the what's the word I'm looking for? They're using the style of the pseudo Greek or Roman ruler with the gladiator pits, getting back to, again, the Greek myth of Hercules, Samson from the Bible, stuff like that. So you can see what they're tapping into with this concept of the Hulk. But it just hasn't, again, it's all over the place. One issue, he's going to use alien technology to destroy the humans. The next time he's trying to stop a war, and at this point here he's doing all these labors just for one girl, where before he's like, who cares? So the motivation, the personality of the Hulk has not really locked in. Rick, of course, figures out a way. If he can get Betty safe, then the Hulk can fight without worrying about it, which is exactly what happens. And as the Hulk breaks through, I did like this. There's a few points where this happens in the inking, and this is Dick Ayers inking. I'm going to point it out here in a couple other panels. The stuff that's real big in the foreground has a real thick, heavy contour line around it. Real thick. The closer it is to you, the thicker the line. You can see that up here in the Hulk's hand. He's got this real thick contour or outline around him. Same with the rocks that are breaking through as he's busting through the wall to get out. That's very, very nice. I like that. It's a style I use myself when I'm inking to try to help differentiate the different levels of depth. So like here again, the Hulk, his face at the bottom, nice thick contour line, and then Tyrannus would have a thinner contour line, and then the details of like the stone and stuff in the background is even thinner than that. So that's great. That's a perfect way to sell that, and Dick Ayers does a great job. So here Tyrannus is trying to get his subjects to stop the Hulk, and the Hulk smashes these two giant pillars, which creates an avalanche which buries they think everybody under all this rubble, and then Rick and Betty and the Hulk escape. So there's your ode to Samson, who knocked down the two pillars. So there we go. And they escape to the surface, and of course Betty is in shock, and so she pretends like she doesn't remember anything and doesn't remember the Hulk saved her. And then you got this little recap panel at the end, which I find very interesting. We've seen this again. I don't know if it's a Kirby thing. I don't know if it's a Stan Lee thing. But they're looking to sum it up, and they do it with the faces and them kind of summing everything up. Let everybody fear him because he's the Hulk. You go, okay. So now we go into chapter 2. Again, still Jack penciling, Dick Ayers inking. So it's a whole new story. Again, weird that they break it into these pieces like this, but it's just sort of how they were doing it. This is an interesting half splash, or 3/4 splash. I like the idea of showing the Hulk leaping and starting off a story with the Hulk leaping off into the distance, which is neat. This isn't the greatest pose. So I said it's weird anatomy. So you have like, if if I was to, I wish I could, because it's a PDF file. I've tried it before. I can't like take it into Photoshop and edit it and show you with overdrawing what's weird about it. But like basically the Hulk has no clavicle. He has no collarbone right here between the top of his chest and over here. So the neck is almost being pulled into the top of his pec muscles. The shoulder is okay. This part, like the traps up here, are okay, but the shoulder muscle itself is kind of weird, almost like it's connected in the wrong spot. It should be further over, because again, it's part of this like pectoral, and yes, they do sort of connect, but it should be over a little further. Like this arm should be to the side a little more. Then the other thing, just in terms of dynamics, if the head was lifted up, the hair's blowing back, he's leaping, so one leg here has pushed off and is trailing behind. This other one is throwing forward as he's leaping. If that was the case, and then maybe have both hands and big fists, it'd be more dynamic. This is just sort of a odd, weird form of a person at a strange angle. Yes, it's the Hulk leaping, I get it, but there's a couple little things that could really sell that leaping a little bit better. At least they are trying to now be more consistent with the Hulk leaping as opposed to flying. In past issues, he was changing direction in the air, out with his hands stretched out forward, just like Superman flying. At least here we show more leaping. You can see he leaps, he lands, he leaps off again. So that part works. And now we have a throwback to the previous episode or issue where General Ross is trying to use this new missile, which they made a big deal about. It's this, they tested it on a robot. It's this ice missile, so that it gets close enough and it shoots this instant freezing foam, and it's going to trap the Hulk, right? Set it up, spent a whole bunch of time in the last issue talking about it. They did a test, and now here they're actually going to use it. They use it, and it lasts for all of like 5 minutes, and then the Hulk, between his own body temperature and the fact that they're in, I don't know, the desert, it melts. The ice melts enough that he can break out, and he just jumps off. Like, weird. Okay. And I guess we're paying off the military's still trying to get after him. They made this special missile, this special weapon after him, and it just doesn't work. But we've wasted kind of a couple pages going through it on something that means nothing. There's no secret here. There's no like, ooh, the Hulk is vulnerable to cold. That'll really help us out. It doesn't set up anything like that. So I don't know the point of it. Then the Hulk goes on his own, changes back to Banner, and tells Rick, like, hey, this is getting harder and harder. As the Hulk, I don't want to change back. So you got to make sure I don't stay as the Hulk. I do like the fact that even moments after he changes, he's already in his robe / smoking jacket and ascot. Like, because, he has to be a fancy man of leisure, I guess, after he changes to the Hulk. Or from the Hulk. So I thought that was very funny. The thread of this story has to do, and listen, again, this is the times. So we have to remember, when was this comic made? This comic was made in the early 1960s. So what we have here is essentially a made up story of, essentially, if you want, it's the Chinese army is trying to invade essentially like Tibet, right? So they have the High Llama. They make up countries and stuff. So it's not, you know, exactly where it's happening. The general is General Fang, and yes, there's a star on there, and we go, okay, yeah, it sort of looks like China. They don't, I don't think they specifically say, but anyway, there's all this news about it. It's so instead of Nepal, it's called like Lhasa, Lhasa. So I guess that's the made up name of this, you know, version of Tibet, Nepal kind of area. And Bruce is like, oh, this is going to be another world war. So the Hulk has to stop him. So now all of a sudden the Hulk, or Bruce as the Hulk, is going to stop a war. When before the Hulk couldn't care less about people. And then we'll get to the elephant in the room here, but then the Hulk goes to his library. So not only is this is a cave that Rick and Bruce excavated. They've built a lab. There's a special Hulk containment room, and they took time to stock it as a full research library that apparently the Hulk has read. So whether this is, again, they act like they're different people. Like, again, remember here, at the end of this issue, he says, you know, they're going to fear me because they're only humans, but I'm the Hulk. Not Banner. I'm the Hulk. And so, but does he remember the things that Banner has read, or has the Hulk read these books? I'm not sure. But he pulls out this book called Strange Myths and Legends, and he's going to use it to his advantage. So this is not your Hulk smash Hulk. This is definitely an interesting version. I do like the anatomy on this Hulk as he's looking. How much bigger his hands are is very nice. The size of the head. You've got the musculature underneath is good, like the ribs and stuff. I think that's a well drawn Hulk with mass. Tip: if you want to draw characters that are larger than your average human, there's a couple of tips. One is typically you shrink the head. That makes the body bigger. And then you make the hands and feet larger. So by adding larger hands, feet with a smaller head, it makes the overall scale of the body appear much bigger. Now, before we get there, I know, we're going to talk again one more time about this up close inking. It's a real nice, super thick contour of the outlines of the Hulk's hand and book. So Dick Ayers is doing a great job again using his ink line to separate something up close from something that's further away. So here we go. So this is obviously a computer colored and pasted in panel. It's not the right size. It doesn't quite match up with the panel next to it. So you can see that the gutter would be much larger. I'm 100% speculating, but here's what I believe probably happened. This comic that they scanned probably had either a rip. So this part of the page might have been ripped out. So some of this panel was missing, or maybe somebody took a pen or a marker and, you know, wrote over it, colored over it, a kid scribbled on it, whatever. Something happened to that panel where it couldn't be printed as it was scanned. So what they had to do is go to the reprint version of this, which was digitally colored, take that panel and do what we call a digital paste up. And basically they just pasted this picture from another copy of the same book. This is, I'm assuming, what the art looked like, because this is still Kirby Hulk here, no problem. But it was computer recolored and, again, pasted in at the wrong size. It's probably to cover up damage from the original book. And that makes sense here because when you flip the page, we've done the same thing on the other page in the same area. So the center of this page. So it was probably just ripped, torn enough that there was too much missing. And so they just pasted in to cover the damage. That's all. So they're on a plane. I think that's pretty funny. I do like this Hulk face when he gets exposed for being on the page or on the plane, and the flight attendant screams, and then they take off and hop away. And again, we're seeing the Hulk. Yes, his arms are out. He looks more like he's flying here, but at least after that, he is hopping around from place to place as he leaps. So that's good. But yeah, no, the size of the Hulk's head here is very good. Um, the angle of the face is nice. I like that one a lot. Let's see here. So they're attacking. I think he does say something about. Oh yeah, Formosa. So I guess that's. Um, yeah. So that's the other guys. Um, sorry. So the brutal hordes of General Fang, but they don't really say where General Fang is from. Um, so anyway, the Hulk hops in, and then they keep on their trek, destroying, holding off military. Here we go. Yes, they do end up in China. So it looks like Fang is Chinese. They destroy some planes and keep on going. And then this is where the book comes into play. So the Hulk has he and Rick dress up like the Abominable Snowman and a little Yeti. Um, and he assumes if he attacks them, the Chinese army and their tanks, looking like the Abominable Snowman, they will freak out because they're afraid of this myth of the Abominable Snowman. So crazy, but it works, and he's using all kinds of stuff, right? So he uses a giant tree limb to kind of smash the tanks together. He uses his hand to create, kind of earthquakes and knocks all the soldiers off their feet. He even uses the sound of his voice to destroy their like radar or their spying equipment. So they're like, yep, it's the Abominable Snowman. He's come to destroy us, not the Hulk. And so they go, never mind, we're going to do this. So they use the projector to try to scare off the Hulk, not knowing it's the Hulk, with this projection of this giant dragon. And the thing I noted here, if you're familiar with Marvel lore, this dragon depiction looks like the character Fin Fang Foom, which is a giant dragon. But this design very much looks like that character. They capture the Hulk briefly with electricity, like an electrified cage, keeping him there. They're going to shoot some rockets at these helpless, so Tibetans, for lack of a better word. But of course, Rick is still there, so Rick saves the day, and the Hulk smashes the cage, takes the missiles, captures the missiles from General Fang, and uses his missiles against him to create a giant chasm that his soldiers can't get across. So now they have to paratroop. So now they're going to jump and parachute over the chasm. But the Hulk uses trees to create wind to blow them back away. And now General Fang is running for it, and the Hulk manages to capture him. He uses a geyser. This is crazy. So there's a geyser, and the Hulk plugs the geyser so that the pressure goes back under the road and conveniently explodes directly under the car. Okay, why don't you just jump over, land on the hood of the car, smash the car, grab the general, hop off? And the Hulk leaves the general with his enemies across the sea. So this is that Formosa. So from China, that's where they landed first. So these guys that first attack the Hulk are the enemies of General Fang and the Chinese. So he leaves them there to see if they'll capture him. And then they go home. And again, nobody's safe. None of the rest of the human race is safe. They only be safe when there's no Hulk. And I'm planning on being around for a long time. So again, this Hulk is really identifying himself as a new person, as a separate entity. And again, we're ending on this little image of the two heads kind of summing things up, if you will. And that is the book. So, like I said, pretty interesting, definitely different. Let's head over to the desk and we'll wrap. So this is the Incredible Hulk number 5. As I said, it's a interesting book. Like I said, it's the last, regular series book that we see from Kirby. Like I mentioned, Jack Kirby will do other Hulk work later. He'll draw the Hulk in other books like the Avengers, and he'll show up in Fantastic Four and stuff like that. But in terms of the series, The Incredible Hulk, I think this is about the end. Certainly the end of the regular, of Jack Kirby being the regular artist. We have a special guest for the next one. And we are going to have a special guest here on the channel as well talking about it. So I'm very excited to look at The Incredible Hulk number 6 with you next week. Thank you all for checking this out with me. Oh, I'm sorry, I should give my rating. I give this a 6 out of 10. It's interesting. It's okay. I would have liked to have seen the entire Tyrannus Hulk Underground Gladiator stretched out longer. I think that would have been a more fun story than the 2 that we saw with, the part about the Chinese army and trying to invade this other country and stuff like that. I think just the gladiator story would have been more interesting. So again, 6 out of 10, but I think the next one will be really, really cool. Thank you for checking out the video. Thank you for your time. Again, don't forget to subscribe so that you can be eligible for the art reward when we get to the 1,000 subscriber mark, which the goal is to get that done by the end of 2026. So if you're not a subscriber yet, hit that subscribe button. If you already are, let your friends know and see if they want to subscribe as well. It's totally free, but you too can be part of this community that we're building and win some free art. So thank you so much, and I will see you here next week for more Incredible Hulk. Thanks.